This conference will now be recorded.
Maybe a plumber.
There's no way to tell.
Yeah.
Says it's recording.
All right, Town of Cottage Grove Plan Commission will hold a public meeting on Wednesday, June 1st, 2022, 7 PM at the Town Hall at 4058 County Road Inn. You can also join the meeting by GoToMeeting. We have a quorum present. The meeting was posted at the town and on the website. Call the meeting to order. You have the minutes of the April 27th meeting in your packet.
I didn't see any modifications necessary. At least I didn't notice any, so move to approve.
Motion by Mule, second by Myler to approve minutes as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carried. Public concerns, public's opportunity to speak to the Plan Commission about any subject that's not a specific agenda item. There's no one online, no one else here. Move to election of officers. We need a chair and a secretary.
Steve's not here.
I'll make a motion to make another year, or whatever the hell it is.
Second.
Motion by Myler. Is there a second?
Sure.
Second by Mule for Hampton and Bannigan.
Well, no, you can't nominate me.
I didn't think so. I was just wondering. See if she's paying attention.
Yeah, because she's not a member.
Yeah,
Somebody has to be the secretary in case I'm not.
Who's the secretary now?
Troy.
Gave it to me.
You.
Well, what about Troy?
Has been doing a good job. I think.
Yeah. Troy. Nominate Troy.
Okay,
Amend that approval.
okay. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carried. Review and possible recommendations on amendments to section 12.08 of the town code design review. Questions, comments?
I have questions.
Okay,
Okay. Let's start. Mark, did you draft this? Yes, you did.
Yes.
Okay, so let's start up with paragraph 2 or section 2.
Yep.
A, you have development of residential land use consisting of 3 or more units.
Right.
The
we allow
duplex on a single lot. Okay, and
We have one over there as you go into North Creek Golf Course.
and a lot of some of the flats, the old farmhouse are flats in there,
2 units, yeah.
but then that's 2 residential, 2 RDU.
The only 2.
Okay,
So we've talked about this in the context of the comp plan. And in the planned neighborhood development areas, I believe there's mention of the potential for, smaller scale, multiple family, maybe for seniors. So I guess I'm anticipating your question, Troy. I know it doesn't happen a lot or much at all, if at all. But the idea would be that if it would, then they would have to come to you all for site plan approval with a landscape plan. And other
Okay.
things.
And then there was your second comment. Can you kind of elaborate on some of that?
On the same page, Troy.
Yes.
Yeah, so just real quickly, there 2B represent, I gotta clean up a typo in there, and I did on my version, but 2B was a change that you had advised farmland preservation zoning. You're not asking about that, but I just wanted to point out the things that have changed. And 2F has changed, quite a bit from the last version. You might remember we talked about it a little bit. And the question is, so someone comes in to add 2 spaces to a parking lot or a shed or whatever, does that come before you or not for design review? And so based on what I heard, I kind of recrafted that. And basically it says, okay, if you're expanding any of the uses that are listed before it, commercial use, whatever, you got to come back, except in the cases listed as 1, 2, and 3. So the first case would be, say the person came to you 5 years ago and said, this is my building, but hey, I think this is going to go well for me, and I'm not expanding now, but here's my expansion area, and I'm going to build it just according to the same design. We had that just last month. Yeah, right. And so then Kim in the office, along with the building inspector, make a determination. No, this was in the site plan that they approved 5 years ago. It's the same building. They get a building permit. They don't have to come back to the Plan Commission. So that's the exception number 1. The exception number 2 is sort of what I kind of determined based on our discussion would be small scale. And so that would be, you're not expanding the floor area of the building by more than 10%, either through one addition or a combination of additions extending back to when the design review ordinance kind of kicked in back in 2001. So you can't get away with, oh, here's a 9% addition, and the next year another 9% addition.
Right.
Serial modifications.
Yeah. But if you stay under that 10%, again, it's a fairly arbitrary number, but it's a number. And then I did the same with outdoor, changes. If you're expanding a, display area or a loading area or something that's outside by more than 10% over that period of time, then you have to come in. But if you're under 10%, then you don't.
So I think what my question was, as I was reading it, thank you for.
Oh, sure.
The part was if you have like a shell building up and then either it gets sold or the person decides, well, now I'm going to start to put drywall and then insulation and progress where they have people in it, that maybe the design was meant more for just storage than it was to have quarters or some type of office space. How does that come back to the township?
Well, if the changes are all interior, then it wouldn't. It would be a building code issue, and if they meet the associated building code, they would get the permit to do, and zoning rules, if they were changing the use to violating the zoning rules.
All right, so it's on them to come back and say, I'm going to make the change, rather than just make the change and look the other way, so to speak, for them.
Well, if it's interior.
Yeah.
But when the original building was built, we would have handled the parking and the landscaping and how it looked at that point in time.
Yeah.
But Troy, what you say does happen from time to time. Someone built a building for one use that, had maybe a low parking demand, like a warehouse. And then they convert it to another, maybe it's a permitted use in the zoning district, but has a lot more parking demand. And then you find yourself with a parking problem, or, you can.
I'm more thinking of just the building structure itself. It's not meant to have living quarters or some of the stuff like that moving forward. And that's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Would they go through the building permits?
So they wouldn't be.
You have to get a permit.
That becomes like a zoning violation, and I know it happens, but if you're in a business district and you start living there, that's not.
That's a problem.
Yeah, that's a zoning violation, and then, the guys downtown would, enforce it.
Okay.
What did you say?
We would call Sarah Johnson.
Oh,
Something interesting that I just learned recently, you had a rezone a couple months ago for a property, a barn that was being converted to a business over on Vilas. When that came to the building inspector, it ended up that it's being converted from an ag use to a business use, and they had to go through state review of their.
Right.
And that's something that even the county hadn't really considered.
Yeah.
And it's something that I think we here have to think about too, that we have to make people realize that that's something they're going to be subject to. So-
bathrooms and
So
other.
that's kind of that
Our favorite
situation
person.
where, pardon?
Our favorite person.
Yeah, well, no, that was that Dyer over
It
it.
is what it is.
Oh, yeah. On
Yeah,
violence.
yeah, he ended up
Yeah.
having to have state plan review because it's going to a commercial use. And the state guy told our building inspector, you know, it's a limited family business from a zoning, but the limited and the family don't mean anything as far as he's concerned. It's still a business and it has to have
At the
state
state level.
Building
the
code,
state
commercial
code,
building
so-
code. Yeah.
So that's an example kind of how that would get caught.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, this ordinance is almost entirely about how the exterior of the building and the site
Landscaping.
looks.
Oh, all right.
And if they have to go to the town board or not.
That's true. No, right.
What about the sign? Are you following or should I just keep going?
Go, yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay. What about signage? Has that in here? Can we talk about billboards?
Exterior signage
Yeah,
on page 5 of 9.
that's something that, I guess I'm kind of going off outside the idea I think of when we see a sign is to just have, much like we have coming into the town of Cottage Grove. You have that large sign when it's out on your property and then small businesses under there.
Yeah, where it's like a business park kind of entrance
right.
sign. Yeah, that wasn't intended to cover that. So you might be looking at something, Troy, on page, let's see, page 5. is it?
Yes.
Yeah,
Right.
where it said
Off-premises.
any off-press advertising sign greater than 100 square feet in area is not allowed. And then because you see all those all caps off-premise advertising.
Yeah.
That signals to me that there's a definition of that. And I think there is. And in the definition section, back on page 3, at the top of 3, it defines off-premise advertising signs.
Okay.
And it says, if you look at the last two lines, but does not include public information signs or multi-tenant industrial park or business center signs approved by the town.
Okay.
So that would be allowed, and, you know, in many ways it's encouraged because it often reduces, you know, the amount of on-site signage that is necessary. What I'm talking about is like advertising Pepsi or light
Yeah.
beer, something that's, you know, not sold in the town.
Okay.
Yeah, they got their name on that sign because they donated for it.
Right, okay, yeah, no, that, and that, so public information signs might be where even that would be classified.
Okay.
Because what's the main purpose of the sign? Is it like, welcome to blah, blah, blah?
Welcome to Cottage Grove.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that would not be classified as an off-premise advertising sign, so that would be allowed.
Okay. That's all I have.
Anyone else? Everyone's okay with this, asking the town for this to be the last stop for design and review?
The board doing
And see, is the board approving of it?
Wow, we'll make our case.
I think, you know, it's been a while since I've looked at this now, because I worked on it right after the last meeting, but I think there's still an appeal process to the board.
Yes,
Yeah.
they can
So
appeal
they
to
can
the town
appeal.
board.
Right, so if someone feels aggrieved by something, you know, whether you approve something with a condition they don't like or rejected it, anyone can appeal that to the board. So
Right. So looking for a recommendation?
Can this turn into this process, turn a little into like the quasi judicial or not? Sending somebody through? I'm just curious. Probably not.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think what we would want is consistency throughout the town or that area
Okay.
for the building designs, architecture, those amenities.
You know, as I worked on it, Troy, I think that what I tried to do based on my experiences, where we can get measurables in there, great, where we don't have like an argument, no, 2 trees not good enough, 4, but yeah, 4 is good enough,
Yeah.
to try to quantify some of that
Yeah.
stuff.
Okay.
By
Yeah.
size.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
sometimes when we're talking about aesthetics, you know, there's always going to be some judgment.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
And that's why you guys are, you know, in the picture to offer that judgment based on your knowledge of the town and its ordinances and plans.
Okay.
So it's a little bit of a mix of kind of hard quantities and a little bit softer stuff.
Mhm.
Okay.
Plagiarism is great.
Right.
So what's this proposed ordinance like, or who's it closest to that this is in existence?
Well, I started with yours and I didn't have anything to do with, you know, yours back in the, was created about 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I also worked more recently than that with 2 towns that I worked with quite a bit, Springfield and the town of Decorah on Lake Wisconsin, you know, both of which have, you know, some commercial development. So they've used a version of this ordinance for many years now. And I've also, you know, worked in villages where we've got, you know, some, for example, some of the more quantitative stuff in here I've pulled from some of my village experience.
Developers aren't jumping up and down on any one aspect.
No, I can tell you the biggest issue is always metal buildings
Yeah.
right now. Because
They want
it's,
all metal.
right, it's
Can't
the
imagine
most
what.
affordable option for them. It's durable, right?
Yeah.
And so,
Top and side.
yeah,
But that front that faces the public street, you want it a little nicer.
Jazzier.
but most of the other stuff, Dave, I don't, you know, have a lot of pushback and for the standards that I have in here, I can tell you they're a tinge lower than what you would find if you were in a more compact village area where, you know, there's just more
Oh, yeah.
people and more people to offend. So you're not necessarily going to see,
We might know a municipality like that.
so it doesn't strict metal for sure. It doesn't, you're not going to have, you know, sites that look like they're over landscaped, in my opinion, for sure.
No.
Which sometimes you know, you see when you drive through a village, it's like, oh boy, they really put the screws to this guy. And, you know, I don't think this is that type of ordinance.
Would it help if the ex-village board member made the motion?
Doesn't make any difference.
I'm just thinking of not village board, but I mean, town board. I misspoke, I'm sorry. Ex-town board member? You know,
No.
yeah.
Recommend-
I've been on both boards. I like this idea, is what you're saying then.
Recommended to the town board for action. If you like. Anyone?
I'm trying to get, I'm motioning to
You want a motion?
Yeah.
Motion to approve section 12.08 design review, pages 1 through 9 with changes as made.
Your recommendation, just send it to the town board.
To send it to town board.
Motion by Klinger, is there a second? Second by Mylan. Any discussion on that motion to forward it to the town board? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Next item, review revised drafts of updated comprehensive plan volumes in advance of public hearing. And the public hearing is July.
5th, I have a typo in the memo that I say the 6th, it is not the 6th.
Yeah.
So, I think you've had the materials for a couple of weeks now. The conditions and issues, remember this is broken into 2 volumes. The conditions and issues volume is all the background information, the sort of the analysis that goes into the plan. And then
Start
vision,
with that one.
we can go start with that one, and then the vision and directions volume is more the substance.
Okay. Page Stewart, if you have questions on something, bring it up.
This is conditions and issues one.
Yes.
I only had the question about the page or map 5, which was the red marking. Sounds like they just are incorrect.
This is the deed restrictions one.
Yeah.
The 3 that are red, you mean, Troy?
Yeah, there's actually a few of them that are red. There's some small pieces along 1218. There's 2 there. There's one on the corner of Jargo and Nora Road. There's one just in the backside of up off here, but we identified that as being where the model airplanes flew there.
I don't know why they identified those as red, because like the one that's the model airplane, that would to me be a restricted land use, you know? And then the other one that's down up at the corner of Nora and Jargo, that's all PDR, that's all score land that I think was used to develop the lots on Scarston. And the same thing with the red ones on 12 and 18. I'm not sure what made them think what they called those other for.
That they didn't fit into the one of the categories.
Yeah.
I mean, we could just direct them to put those into one of the 4 categories, best fit of the 4 categories.
I didn't look all, those are the only ones I looked up or know off the top of my head, but if there's yeah.
On page 20 though, 3rd paragraph, I'm wondering if we could change a word in that first sentence. Instead of village, how about hamlet?
Does the Cottage Grove, you were talking about the very first sentence on the page?
No, 3rd paragraph,
Oh, I'm sorry.
first sentence. The village of Cottage Grove was created when the railroad went through in 1881.
Oh, it wasn't a village then.
No,
Very good.
so maybe hamlet
Yeah, the settlement,
or settlement, yeah.
yeah.
Because later on you say it was incorporated in 1924, which is
Right,
right.
very good.
So in map 5 again? Give me a second. You guys were wondering about the red stuff, right? Okay. On the old coffee land, which is, I'm gonna show you,
Thank you. Yeah, this isn't me.
this box right here. I don't think that's correct. The one that the road bisects probably is correct, but the second one, the full 40.
You don't think this is
No,
a restricted?
It shouldn't be.
Okay.
Let me pull up something else here. Get to it.
Better not be. I got a different question for you, Mark.
You don't think those 2 should be blue?
Just the eastern one?
The eastern one should not be blue in my mind. He used up a deed restriction when he put that second lot in. The first one, I think it was a grandfather lot. So when I was looking on the maps the other day, I didn't see prohibited development on that parcel to the east. The full 40.
Yeah.
So you can check it out.
Yeah.
Make it
It
F.
shows, I'm looking at where is that up here? it was part of number 10263.
We can check on this a bit later, so we don't take up time on this, Kim. We should check on it.
Yeah, I mean, I've got all these deed restrictions on our GIS system too, based on a spreadsheet that the county gave us. And so here's the parcels, here's the deed restriction and the parcel numbers so this is, but if you want to check on it, it's petition number 10263. And it specifically deed restricted 2 parcels here. So I'm just.
We'll look at it.
Yeah.
Don't have to take time. On map 4, Mark, same area. What are those heavy blue lines? Couldn't tell what that stuff was.
Heavy blue lines ought to be surface water, or at least the county's representation.
Right here.
Right there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's supposed to be surface water.
It's drainage ditches. You can correct that too. Because there's no pond there.
Yeah, I guess, it's based on aerial photography, and if it bounces back an image of water, then it shows up as surface water on the map. It's not, that's a map of existing land use. It's not intended to be regulatory.
Good. I didn't see anything else on it. Issue.
Anything else on conditions and issues? Vision and directions then?
So this is the one where I turned on that track changes function. I think you have that in your version. Sometimes it comes through
With the red.
yeah, with the red
Yep.
markings or whatever change process. And so you can see these are the changes that occurred since the last version you saw, if you see it in red. And most of those relate to the new boundary agreement with Madison. And it took a little bit of time because the boundary agreement speaks French and the plan speaks English, so we had to kind of do some translating to make it fit. But I'm happy to answer questions. So most of the changes are in the land use chapter.
On page 10, deploying different tools to permanently preserve agriculture and natural areas in acceptable areas, where we're talking about the conservation easement. We need that third party, someone other than just the town and the county to
Yes.
sign on to that. If we recommend someone, and at this point, I have no idea who it might be, do we have to worry about it not being acceptable, 1, to the landowner, 2, to the county?
Possibly. I mean, it takes, I guess the landowner's got a choice to do or not do what is causing the need to apply the conservation easement. If they don't want to do it, the conservation easement, then they don't have to do, land division or transferring rights or whatever is kicking it into place. The county, the county could be the third party, but I don't know if that would be, and you talked to Todd Violante about this a year ago now. I don't know if that would be sufficient to survive the annexation thing. All right.
It's not.
Yeah.
No, but you were worried that the county might not like who you recommended.
Yeah. And I guess at some point we need to have that
across the
conversation.
bridge.
Who, is there anyone out there that we would want to recommend to be that third party?
Yeah. The Springfield went through this because they have a conservation easement over a farm that's not too far from the city of Middleton. And they initially spoke with the Groundswell Conservancy. And for whatever reason, it didn't work out with them. They didn't like some of the provisions of the conservation easement, so they decided not to participate. And they also sought a fee, to monitor the easement over time. That town considered to be too high, I guess. So they went and connected with Yahara Pride Farms, which is some of you know what it is. It's a private consortium of farmers that are conservation focused, and they agreed to be the third party.
Third party?
Yeah, and they did so for each, there's only been one conservation easement, but so far, but they did a kind of a baseline conditions report. So the idea is if you're going to preserve a farm under current conditions, there has to be some agreement as to what current conditions are. It sounds relatively simple, but sometimes it can be a little complicated. So they did that got attached to the easement as, so here's what it's like when we, have the easement, and there's a commitment to kind of maintain the farm in current or better conditions than it exists presently. And then they are relatively passive on monitoring, but they will monitor then at the request of the town, whether the easement is being met. I mean, there's certain things that are easy, is a house being built on it or not.
Yeah.
There's other things that maybe relate to conservation or other, that are a little harder to detect.
I think my main concern is at the time that if it ever got annexed, we don't want it to be built on.
Right.
We want it to remain farmland.
Right. So that their town attorney, Mark Hazelbaker, who I'm sure you know, offered the opinion that while it hasn't been litigated, that having that private third party holder would be the ticket to survive annexation, or the best chance that the easement would survive annexation.
Yeah, because I think the county's just going to roll over on it because it's all city of Madison.
Yeah, it could be. And if you've already had that discussion with the county, and then that would probably be the case.
So is that something we should research and see if we could find someone to be that third party?
If the seller wants it.
It's not so much that the seller wants it, I think the town wants it.
How much area do you think you'll conserve that's close enough to be annexed to anything?
Right, nothing. It's probably everything east of N.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's beyond, it's, so again, I know I've got this one example I keep trotting out, but the farm that was put under a conservation easement is not right next to the city of Middleton. But, reasonable projections will suggest in 40 to 50 years, Middleton could get out to that farm.
Yeah.
So you're probably not going to line any municipality up with conservation easements because, that landowner would just say, nah, forget it. I'll just wait until development comes to me.
Yeah.
From the village or city.
Right.
And that's what usually happens there. But if you're a generation out with a farmer that's, committed to it and, wants a couple splits or wants to transfer the development rights away, that's where you have that opportunity. And so Springfield in their TDR program just says, we reserve the right to apply the conservation easement tool. If you don't like it, then don't transfer your rights or don't use up your splits.
What would it cost? Would it cost anything to do it other than Kim's time for research?
I don't know.
I don't see any harm in trying to find a source, as long as it's not exuberantly, spending on it.
We'd probably have to have them come in and talk to us and tell us. We tell them what we're looking for them to do, and they'll tell us what they're willing to do, probably. So if you have a list of possible ones,
Yeah,
that you
well,
can
I'll
send
definitely
us
connect you
sometime?
with your Heart Pride, because we started with the county in Springfield and that wasn't gonna work out for maybe some of the reasons you mentioned.
yeah,
Then we went to Groundswell and that wasn't gonna work out. You know, they're a land trust. And then we went to your Heart Pride, but I'll get you the Heart Pride contact and I'll think
Okay.
about others.
okay. Moving on.
I have one question. That's you. Page 21. Pursue detailed planning in a southern intergovernmental study. So that's between us on 12 Highway
Pleasant
and
Springs.
Pleasant Spring.
Yeah, that would be the idea. If you remember, we had a property owner come in and ask for, make a big ask for a lot of commercial use down there. And this was the response that I suggested and got, got this far, at least in the plan, is that there's a lot going on there, a lot of units of government involved, a lot of residential property owners that live in the area, some terrain, that's not always conducive to commercial development. And rather than try to, just paint it all pink on, we should really kind of think about
You
this.
think it, okay. That's,
So it puts a placeholder in there. Right now, if you were to go to the last couple pages of the plan, you'd see it rates as a moderate priority. So it's not something that necessarily you guys are committing to pick up next year or the year after that, but that was the suggested response, is that, hey, you might want to look at this maybe after North Star gets really kind of humming and fills in quite a bit, and you're kind of looking for different areas or opportunities for commercial expansion.
then I had on the map 16,
Yeah.
there was the small residential area that's right off from Highway BB. It's not on this map up here, and I forgot what it is.
Is east of
It's
east?
actually west of Ridge Road.
Yeah, right. It's the existing subdivision,
Sunset Ridge.
Sunset Ridge. So it's just covering, it's not intending to,
It's,
go ahead.
you got it yellow.
So is that an area that we would want additional neighborhood development in?
It was intended to reflect the existing subdivision only.
Yeah.
Okay,
And have the plan match the reality. It's, right now it's shown as farmland preservation area.
There's houses.
It's a rural subdivision.
Yes.
So it just didn't seem to match. And if you remember, we have something of a challenge here in that the town is supposed to maintain at least 80% of the land in light green zoned in the farmland preservation zoning district. So
okay.
if we can get the stuff that's obviously, not zoned farmland preservation out of that light green color, that helps that percentage a little bit.
Oh, and then I think it was on the next page, 25. All right, so this is something I brought up with Buckley or Mr. Dinkle's development,
Kennedy.
Kennedy.
Kennedy Hills.
Was in here, it's number 4, line number 4.
Okay.
About purchasing, or at least getting, you can purchase what you need, but then at least get a commitment from somebody that's willing to sell you those splits, so you have them to complete the development.
Right.
We want them to have that option in hand when they come to us.
Right, and I'm thinking it's more of, we definitely want it. We want to have you come to us with some option papers that you approach some people that will sell you the property at this price.
If we approve it, we want you to know that Dave's gonna sell it to you,
Yeah,
or whoever.
Yeah.
right. But that's the part is that he had two,
He had to have two to do his first phase.
right? But he doesn't have any, to my knowledge, for the rest of the phases.
No,
So was that something we want to say you get an option for the remainder of those phases?
When he comes asking for approval for those phases, I think that's what this says, isn't it?
yeah,
But he had a master plan of it. That's what I'm thinking.
oh,
He
yeah,
had
for
that
the entire
development.
parcel.
Right,
Right, he had to have a plan for the entire parcel, but he could do it in phases.
correct.
So he only had to have options on his first phase. He didn't have to have options on any of the
Subsequent.
He
subsequent.
wasn't asking to create lots yet. He was just showing how he might.
That's the key.
Correct. And then I'm going, because I'm thinking way ahead, thinking, if you're gonna have, this is your master plan, and you need two to start your first phase, that's fine. Show us the two that you need.
Mhm.
But then you should show some options of where you're gonna end up with the other splits, so that we know what's going on. You've presented a master plan. You need those splits to stick to the master plan. He doesn't have to put down any money. He just needs the option paperwork to show that.
Yep, those phases could be years away and nobody's
Yeah.
gonna give them options.
Yeah, there's two side coin of that, Troy. Economics will change
Oh,
no
yeah.
matter what between now and then. And other parties may want to participate later that don't want to now.
That's true.
So you're precluding those people from participating. in
Yeah.
it. So
Well, that's-
I think it's fine the way it is right now. You're asking for an awful lot for something that might not happen for a very long time.
That's true, but I thought I'd bring it up.
You definitely don't want to get into a situation where, someone's recorded a plat and they don't have the development rights
No.
secured and, but they're not there yet. So you're protected.
On 28 at the top, did you put in the date in May? In your,
Do we have a date? Yet, has it been,
Oh, I just got
Has
this,
the
yes,
agreement
I
been
did
executed?
just didn't I send you the signed copy?
I don't know that you have.
When I sent you
Sometimes I miss.
I asked you about the GIS.
Oh, you sent it in the GIS?
That was the
Email?
email, yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know what the date is off the top of my head either, but we do have a signed copy.
yeah,
All right.
so I need that date filled in.
Yeah, it's intended to be the effective date, which is what, the date of the last signed
Signature.
signature. Get that in.
That's another just quick question the other neighbor. Page 26. Paragraph 3, in the red, it says subject to the above limitation. That's the criteria you're talking about there?
Transfer issue means it. Yeah, so the limitations are, everything else in 3 and 2.
Okay. And then the question I had on the future, we have your pits, anywhere where there's a house, or I should say a pit, they have 101,320 feet, you have to be from the pit to place the house.
Yeah, so that's the 1-to-1 transfer ratio concept. So,
And that's from the border of the pit's property, even if they own property 240s and you bought this 40, you need to be at least 130 feet off their border of any of their properties, regardless if the pit's in another portion that isn't even used yet, correct?
Right,
Okay.
What?
a quarter mile. So the idea is that you don't want to be transferring splits around in the Great Lake Green area in places where you don't want to see more
Right.
houses, and within a quarter mile of a extraction operation is a place where it's not
Stay
generally a
away
good
from
place to live, right?
Okay.
So your question is a reasonable one, Troy, if they haven't started digging in that area, but It would be my interpretation that whatever the boundaries of the approved extraction areas where you'd start measuring.
from there.
Okay, so the approved extraction, what if it's an area that the pit owns for future extraction? Would that include that area?
Well, do they have a CUP over it? Just because an entity that tends to do
Owns
sand and
that
gravel
80
operation doesn't
acres.
mean that they'll do it.
They
Okay.
may only have 20 acres in the CUP.
Yeah, sometimes they all, folks that do that also are real estate,
Don't want neighbors.
yeah, right.
Okay, nope, that's fine. Farm residence on page 28. Paragraph 2, line B, it says operator, it could be operator owner.
Paragraph 2. More formatting problem. Line B. Okay, so this is for farm residences. Sometime replacement of farm residence with a new residence for the farm operator shall be allowed without counting against the density policy. So if you added owner, the person would also have to be the owner of the farm, not just an operator.
Okay.
So that would be a change in policy if you went in that direction. There's some music going on somewhere. Hearing thing.
Yeah, I can hear some drums or something.
Yeah.
What was on page 42, the agricultural and natural resource bid?
So, I was set straight a little bit this past winter on what the options were for tax incremental districts.
Right.
And,
It looked like.
but one that does remain available to this town would be a agricultural natural resource TID. But you would have to verify that the projects that it would benefit revolve around ag, forestry, manufacturing, and tourism resources.
Okay, that's 75% of it.
Yeah, 75% of it, yeah.
What's the other 25?
Anything, it could be
Could be.
storage or, yeah,
Okay,
the type of things you're commonly getting requests for in North Star. So, if you tried to apply it to that development, you would be constraining the types of uses that could go there. And, most, manufacturing operations, people typically want sewer and water.
Yeah.
So it may not be the best fit, but I thought I'd leave it in there.
So when you get to 51, I got a question for you.
I'm all done.
Perfect.
Go for it.
So this is a conundrum in my mind. And I'm torn both ways.
Yeah.
The last, you know what I'm gonna get to, it's the solar stuff.
Yeah.
This town has concerns following the future solar stuff.
Yeah.
That last sentence, as an aside though, it often referred to as solar farms. The town does not consider solar fields to be farming. You've had that in here?
Well, the people that are developing solar farms often seize upon the word farms
Yeah.
and twist farmland preservation into meaning, solar farm,
Yeah.
we're preserving farmland.
Yeah.
Well, that could be at odds for somebody who might be having restricted on their deed restriction. If solar farms should be available to those people, I would think. But if we say it's not farming, that might be a disconnect. So I'm thinking to the future, somebody has a restriction on development, prohibited development, but the solar stuff is getting really important, meaning global warming and everything, and I don't like I don't like the efficiency right now of the panels, but they could improve to the extent that we're really shooting ourselves by not being able to have that stuff in there. And I'm worried about somebody who gets restricted and then not being able to put in solar fields when they should be able to.
Well, so a deed restriction, you're saying if a deed restriction says you can do farming, that should open up the door to putting a bunch of solar panels there?
Well, if we say that we don't think solar fields is farming, that would seem to say that we couldn't do it, but that's why I'm saying we're gonna shoot ourselves in the foot.
Well,
I don't believe the
Yeah.
developer's saying when it's part of farming, okay?
yeah,
I think it should be a conditional use permit and get tax money from it and all that stuff, but that's VSC.
yeah. Well, it is. I mean, you were involved in the review of a smaller scale one, so they have to get really big for them to be out of your purview. You could cross that out if you want to, if it just creates more confusion than it solves. But I know from experience that there has been, this kind of dumb argument that,
I know.
your town promotes farmland preservation. This is a solar farm. There you go.
It's a utility, but it should be allowed
Right,
on
it's
that
a
land.
utility.
I'm trying not to let it be precluded,
Yeah.
because it may be very important for us as
Yeah.
we get
Well,
more
and-
development.
Well, if you look at the language here, it's not saying no to solar fields. It's saying if you're going to do them, here are our terms, or here's what we're going to try to apply as our terms. And if they're small scale, then you have a direct role in a conditional use permit process. And they're big scale, then you have to testify before the Public Service Commission and make a case. And these 2 pages or whatever it is trying to formulate a town position in advance,
Right.
which is important in my experience because the towns and villages to your east were not at all prepared. And they got rolled over.
Well, we had stuff in our area too, and we couldn't really say no. I'm Tony.
Yeah. no. You didn't have, again, you might have been stuck even with this language, but I know you didn't have it
Yeah.
at your disposal at that time.
I'm just worried about shooting ourselves as a farmer.
Yeah, I mean, if you want,
Well,
it wasn't main
As long as
point.
the county allows it as a conditional use permit on ag zone land, which they do, because the land that they did it on down there was
CUP.
farmland.
Yeah,
Well, then you evaluate it against the 6 or 7 criteria in the
Right.
county zoning ordinance, and then you have this to help you make that evaluation. Dave, whatever you want to do on that is fine.
I'm
I would
suggest.
leave it.
I'm open to suggestion, but I just don't want to, I'm worried about people who sell TDRs and are actively farming, want to put one of these things in, and they're gonna say, oh, no, it's not farming according to your comprehensive plan, like.
Yeah, well,
And
that could be the case without that parenthetical phrase
Yeah.
anyway. It's like when business parks are called parks. What's the park like about this? Yeah, it's using a funny word to describe
Yeah.
what it really is.
I'm just bringing it up, we can talk about it and
No,
leave it or not, I don't care.
leave it alone.
Okay.
Any more questions? At one point, Mark, we were talking about how to help limit village growth. In the
Yeah.
village, we talked about areas that land connect, touch the village. Did we end
In
up-
there. Yeah,
I
let's
don't
see. here.
recall where it was, so.
A quarter mile.
Yeah, it is.
And it-
I either put it in the TDR, I think I put it in the TDR program rules. So let me try to find it for you. Um,
You get page 31.
You know, it's there by Norm and everything. They put that second pond in there. Doesn't
Oh,
even go that way.
maybe,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's just coming down.
Relationship to town's
Oh,
TDR
TDR.
Still coming
program.
down through the ditches, like maybe right over top of
I
it.
forgot.
I'm surprised you didn't get a call.
Oh, here it is. It's,
If the neighborhood
think it was-
development areas within a quarter mile from the village of Cottage Grove transferred RDUs are not required to obtain town approval of residential development above the number of housing units allocated to the May 15th 82 parcel.
What page are you on,
Page
Chris?
31. So would we consider that if just a corner of the property touches the village? Or do we want to, just this much as touching?
yeah,
Do we let them do this or do we want to have a little frontage?
yeah, right now it says a quarter mile, so, you don't even have to have touching
Okay,
there. So I picked a number, and I looked at the map and I looked at the Kennedy development, which was an area of concern. You didn't want to let them off the hook necessarily. And that is a quarter mile from the current village limits. First of all, I think that's one key, is that we probably should specify as of a certain date, because there could be an annexation and all of a sudden that one or something could be within the quarter mile. But if you want to make it more restrictive than that, we could just get rid of the quarter mile and suggest that these areas would have to be
touching.
touching.
I don't know, how does everybody feel about that? You okay with the quarter mile or do you want it to property to actual touch? I guess I'm okay with the quarter mile.
But you want to set a date as of,
July 5th, 2022, right?
Yeah,
When
so
it gets
yeah,
adopted.
because like he said, you don't want the village to annex.
Yeah, no, I just thought of that
and
part, yeah.
And then the rest of Kennedy Hills is within a quarter of a mile,
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it didn't get highlighted. I think it must have been in our last draft, but anyway, thank you for,
We're allowing them to build in the township without a RDU.
Yeah,
I don't think you'll have a tough time. If you're within a quarter mile of the development, people are gonna have that water sewer in the village that they're not gonna probably build in the township anyway, but at least they have the
option.
option.
So your thought of the quarter mile is
quarter mile is my option,
Okay.
my idea. And the question is whether does that go out too far from the village limits or not?
okay. So from their ETJ out from quarter mile.
No,
No,
from their
from
municipal
their
boundary, and I think
From their boundary.
we decided tonight that it should be their municipal boundary as it appears on this map like today,
Right,
rather than based on some future annexation.
Yeah.
That you can't control.
right.
But I think the question, Troy, is that too generous? Is that too far out?
I think quarter mile is fine. Like I said, I just mentioned to Chris that you're probably not gonna anybody develop that within the township without water and sewer, which is gonna be, people are gonna push to be joint, be annexed
It's
if they're within a quarter mile.
but tipping the scale a little bit more in
Right.
the
Yeah.
town's favor.
unless they don't touch.
Yeah, if they can't get annexed, or, the village says, we can't get to you, maybe 20 years, and they want to
Cost
develop
of
now.
development in the village versus cost of development in the town is what they're gonna have to weigh.
You're
Right,
still gonna
versus
have
the-
ETJ to deal. to
That is true
They
too.
still have to deal with ETJ.
When it comes to that, contact Bill, contact me, because their powers ain't what they used to be.
No,
Quarter mile sits well with me.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
So is that just in the neighborhood developer, or is that in that transition area too?
Thought I put some reference to that in the transition. Let me make sure. And yes, such good questions.
sending area to neighborhood development area that is greater than a quarter mile from the village, Cottage Grove developer is able to develop 8 units of the number of reviews.
Okay. Yeah, so I found it, Kim.
And
It's
then-
in figure 6 on page 29,
Mhm.
and relationships to town TDR program is that quarter mile again.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you mentioned it, because I have to put as of July 5th, 2022 there, those spots.
And I like going to review the plan every other year.
Good.
Instead of every year.
I think that's smart.
Because
Because it hardly is a plan if you're just gonna change it every
Change it
year.
every year. And we've had that the last couple of years. Something got changed every year.
Yeah,
but we're,
People
but we're also
kinda wear you
expanding
down.
that time horizon when people have to be thinking about stuff,
Yeah.
which is, some people aren't able to think that far out.
Well,
And we're just reacting to that, to their, whatever their,
the whim is.
Yeah.
remember, we've had ones that have gone back and forth to
Yeah.
2 consecutive years. And they're not taking the plan seriously then.
Right, and we've had ones that have been changed and they're not developing. I mean, one couple that have been changed for 5 years now, and they're still sitting there.
Although the IGA may change that,
You're
because Madison will be out of the picture.
Yeah, I was thinking of the one on Coffee
They
Town
haven't
Road.
annexed
Well, I
that
think
yet,
that
so
one's-
in that case, we can build that in.
That'll never happen.
But you know, down there where.
That was done so that they can market it.
That'd be a smart spot to do
That
it.
was the reason why.
Right there, stop them.
Wasn't that in
And then when they're
the,
done, we can just keep running, going down.
was it the end of Coffee Town?
The west end.
Yeah, all the way to the interstate.
That dead end?
All the way down
Yeah.
to where the gas is, where the sewer and water comes in.
Phil Larson listed it.
Oh, yeah.
Phil Larson came in and put it.
Good conversation though, and thanks for bringing that up.
So that he could sell it for.
anything else? Or are we good to go? We have a joint meeting on the July 5th
Yep,
of the Planning Commission and the town board on the town.
so you'll have a public hearing, and then you'll have a vote by the planning commission and a vote by the board. Is that the right thing, Mark?
That's right.
Yep.
Okay.
So yeah, if everything goes smoothly, you could do that all the same night.
Mhm.
That there's a resolution for you guys to adopt where you recommend the plan. And then the town board by statute has to adopt it by adopting an ordinance.
And you'll get those ready?
Yeah, they're ready. I'll get them to you soon. So,
Okay.
yeah.
We're still meeting on the, is it the 22nd of June?
If we have anything.
If we have anything.
As of right now, I don't,
Yeah.
but there's only another week for anybody to submit, so I'm crossing my fingers.
I guess the final question I have is, we have to get a public notice, posted, legal
Published.
notice, but what more do you think you want to do to make sure that people are aware that we're nearing the finish line?
Well, I do have a list of people who've signed up on the website, so I'll make sure that that notice goes to all of them. And I'll also put it on the Facebook page. You know, those are the people who've cared enough to express an interest, so,
I think that's great.
Would you be interested in following that?
Yeah.
so.
We're calling you
What-
guys at-
No.
I know you're busy.
What I can do.
No, I've got the things, and it's just whenever I know it would take you that long, so you just
Right.
between jobs sometime down the road. Hey, this is more or less for future. I'm not there yet.
To discuss.
You never know.
Design.
Before I get there, I'll be really disappointed.
Yeah. So, yeah, damn.
Yeah.
But at
It's
the
kind of like-
hearing of the town plan,
Yeah, we do the design or.
planning commission to make a motion to move it to the town board, and then the town board can act that night if they want.
So I'll get these revisions done in the next couple of days, but I'll get you the hearing notice
Yeah, okay.
tomorrow morning. I know
I'm
you gotta
gonna
leave.
be, yeah, I'm leaving, I'll need to get that posted. I'm leaving after tomorrow, but I can probably get that posted from where I'm going.
Well, let me just send it to you now.
Well, I mean, not that part, but if you're gonna send me a revised
Oh, yeah.
documents, those I need to post at the same time that it gets published, so there's something for
Right.
people to go look for, so I'll
What's
have
the
to,
publishing date, do you think?
it'll be the 6th of June.
But you're gonna be away, you're saying?
Yeah, but I can do that much, and I'll be,
Okay, yeah, because we're gonna, like we have before, the actual plans we can have on our webpage and just a link
mhm,
from yours, so you might not have to do much of anything.
okay.
I can give you some language to say we're almost,
Yeah, you want to,
it's 2 sentences, we're almost done, click here for the copy,
yeah.
public hearings on June 5th.
Yeah, I can, yeah, and then I can pre-schedule those posts before I leave.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
When we gonna get this done before the census data comes out?
that's ridiculous.
Yeah, we
And it's,
just
you
got-
know what, and there's a lot of reports that junk,
Oh, really?
that a lot of the census got screwed up.
We just got the notice that if we want to contest the population, we can.
Before the census comes out.
So,
Does anyone want to do number 8 if we are done?
not good.
Motion by Mule, second by Klinger to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Thank you for coming in first.
Yeah, thanks very much, I appreciate it, thanks for Tim and Chris scrambling to reschedule.